You're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Hilchot Shabbat, Siman Resh Ayin Vav, the things that a non-Jew can or cannot do for a Yehudi, for a Jew, and still would be permissible to use the benefits that you take from those malachot. We mentioned that not only it is prohibited to say to a goy to do something for you, amira lakum, but even hana'ami ma'asakum is going to be asur. Even drawing benefits from something that a goy did for a Jew will be asur. In other words, even if the goy did it for Reuben, not only Reuben cannot use it, even Shimon and any other Jew cannot use it either. So says the Shulchan Aruch over here, there are certain exceptions to this rule. Baratzot karot, when you have the northern countries, for instance, that they're very cold, in northern Europe, when the cold is unbearable, and you need a warm environment to be safe for the children. Children, when it comes to cold, they are considered sick. Even if they're not sick, we deal with them halachically as a chole she'em bo sakana, and therefore it changes the entire picture of how we view this halacha of drawing benefit from a melacha of goy. So therefore, says the Shulchan Aruch, ba'aratzot karot mutar le'eno Yehudi la'asot medura b'shvil ha'ktanim. If you have children and you want to make a bonfire, you want to fire up the fireplace, to heat up the house, to have a warm environment that it should be safe for children, it is mutar for a goy to do it for the Jews. Umutarin agdolim litchamem bo, and even the adults could now benefit from that because it was done for the ketanim. And if the cold is really excruciating, it's very, very cold, then you can even have the goy do it for adults, even if there are no minors in the picture. Everyone is considered a chole when it comes to cold. Velo keotam shenoagim heter af al pi she'nagor hakor gadol b'yom hahu. And not, says the Shulchan Aruch, not like those who allow this even if the weather is not so cold. So says Shulchan Aruch, you have to be careful. If you have minors, then it's mutar. A regular cold winter day is mutar, and you're good to go. But if the cold is not excruciating, it's really, really cold, then you can't do it for just adults when you don't have minors present. But if it's really cold, you go to Northern European or Canadian places, you have to have a special coat to have to survive the winter. In that type of environment, you need the heat for everyone to just be healthy. Everyone's considered sick in lieu of a proper heating system. Therefore, a goy could do it even for adults. Says the Mishna Berura. La'asot bedura v'hu adin la'asik tanur bit choref. Same thing is for fireplace, as we mentioned. It's not just a bonfire. And the adults could use the heat provided for the minors. Because the fire was made for the minors, everybody now could use it and benefit from that because it was done beheter. We spoke about this before, that if a melacha was done beheter in a scenario that it was permissible, even other people who don't have those criteria could use the benefit from the melacha that was done, because the ikar of the melacha was done beheter. Here's the same thing. If the ikar of the fire was created because of ktanim, because of the minors, then all the adults could use it as well, even though the cold is not really difficult outside. So says the Mishna Berura, Umikol makom en limchot behem. Says the Chafetz Chaim, even though the Shulchan Aruch paskins, not like those people who are lenient, even for adults, in a cold that's not excruciating. Still, if someone did it, you don't have to yell at them. You don't have to stop them. People are not going to listen. In this scenario, people are very sensitive. They think it's going to be end of the world if they don't have some heat. So they're not going to listen to you. And there's a concept called mutav shiyu shogegin. Better that they should be shogeg and not mezid. Now, this concept of mutav shiyu shogegim has its limitations. For instance, if it's something that it's mentioned in the Torah itself, then you can't say mutav shiyu shogegin. You have to tell it them, you have to stop them. But if it's something that's not directly mentioned in the Torah, for instance, here we're talking about amira la'akum, right? It's a Rabbanan. In that case, if you know they're not going to listen, you for sure know they're not going to listen, it's better not to make a point of it, because making a point just makes them mezid. Now they know it's asur and they're still going to do it, right? So it's worse. The Shulchan Aruch discusses this in the halachot of Erev Yom Kippur, because women would eat up until the fast. Really, there's a mitzvah d'oraita of Tosefet Yom Tov, Tosefet Yom HaKippurim. You have to add from Chol ala Kodesh a good few minutes before Yom Kippur starts. You have to stop already eating. So Shulchan Aruch discusses whether or not you should bring this to their attention or not. And Shulchan Aruch says, well, Tosefet Yom HaKippurim is not, even though that we learn it from a drasha, from the pasuk, but it's not explicitly mentioned. And therefore, we know the women are not going to listen because they think, somehow people think that the little ounce of water they drink 3 seconds before is going to help the fast, which is not really true. You have to hydrate from before, you have to eat from before. That 5 minutes makes no difference really in your fast. But nevertheless, the anxious mindset of people, especially women and minors that were very concerned about themselves and their children, is something that the Shulchan Aruch reckons with over there. So very much similar over here as well. Now this, by the way, is a specific heter, because if you think about it for a moment, you realize that this was an absolute need in the time of Chazal, because you didn't have electricity, you didn't have electric heat or gas fuel. You had wood. That's how people kept the house warm. So in a night of winter that Shabbat starts at 4 o'clock, 4:30, so how much wood can you put already? Right in a fireplace. After 2-3 hours, it's already not even 8 o'clock, and the house is going to start becoming freezing. The only way to remedy and reconcile that issue is to add wood. You can't add wood. But if you have a servant, the goy could add wood. So this was a screaming need in a cold area for people to keep the fire going in order to keep everyone healthy and well at home. Therefore, Chazal made this specific kula for this specific halacha. But nowadays, it becomes a whole question if a person could ask a goy to turn on the heat system, essentially turn on fire for the tzorach HaPipul, because this was not necessarily a problem, didn't have to be a problem, right? You could have just turned it on from before Shabbat and now you would be good to go. So this becomes a debatable subject, which the Halacha Barach, David Yosef, he discusses this at length, whether or not it is applicable, how applicable it is nowadays. This issue when we talk about the heat system, the central heat of the houses and the apartments that could have easily been set up from before Shabbat. Nowadays you have even much more sophisticated systems that you could have timers going on, going off. It's set up everything from before Shabbat. But again, if a person gets stuck in a situation in which they're getting cold and they're getting sick because everything is not working, to ask a goy to turn it on is not necessarily asur. Still, there are plenty of poskim to rely on for being mekel in that situation as well. So it says the shcharuch, and now we're starting the next siman Resh Ayin Zayin, which is gram kibui, causing fire or a candle to go out. Is that mutar? Is that not mutar? You have a candle that is put behind a door. Now, if you open the door, there's going to be a draft, and that's going to put off the candle. You know that, right? Especially depending on how the house is situated. You know, if it's an open area and what is holding the wind is the door, you open the door, you're going to have a draft right away. So therefore, says the Shcharuch, if you have such a scenario, do not open the door. You can't open the door because you are directly turning off the candle. Well, directly, indirectly. You're doing it a clear grama, which happens right away. Because you may come to turn off this candle, and it will be a problem. But if the door is open and you want to close the door, lock the door, that's of course mutar. There's no problem with that. Same would be with a window that is opened in front of your dining room upon which your candelabra is resting. So you have your candles there. You open the window, you may be causing to put off the candles, and that would be a problem. That would be a problem. If your candles are kavua, are set behind the area that the door opens, so now you don't have to necessarily knock off the candles. In that case, asur liftoach hadelet ulenoalo kedarko shemate hadelet nokeshet alav utchabenu. Says the Shcharuch, we have a different problem. You don't have the wind, but the door could open and bang to the candle or to the menorah and turn it off in that way. And therefore you have to be still careful, even though that there's no wind per se. You have to be very careful to open the door slowly, to close it slowly, and then it will be mutar. So you don't have the wind, you have a practical problem of not knocking off the candle with the door. So you could open it very gently, you could close it very gently, and that would be fine. When you have wax candles, paraffin candles that we have nowadays, then you could open and close afalpi shu kavua badelit. Even though that it's the candle is affixed to the door, still you could open and close it. You don't have to be necessarily careful any extra level, because it's not going to turn off with that movement. So says the Mishna Berura, אחורי הדלת, כגון דלת שנפתחת לפנים, ומאחריה מונח בבית נר דלוק. Behind it, it opens inward, and behind it there is a candle. Again, remember, back in the day, you had to have light everywhere. So we're not talking about necessarily ner Shabbat, talking about in case you need nerot all over the house. So you want to know if you could have a ner here, or if you already have a ner here, can you open the door when you may be causing to turn it off? So it says the Mishna Berura, כשהוא נגד פתיחת הדלת ממש, וקרוב אל הדלת בעניין שכשיפתח הדלת יוכל להיכבות על ידי הרוח המנשב מבחוץ. Then because it could be turned off, it's going to be asur to open the door. Mashkatav kedarko, ayin b'magen Avram shkatav de ta'ut soferu. Then darko, no darko doesn't make a difference. Ta'afilu imhu poteach hadelet benachat. It's not a matter of the door hitting the light. It's a matter of when you open it, the wind is going to turn off the light. And if I could put a parenthesis in, sometimes if you open it, benachat is even worse, because when you have a narrower area that the wind could creep in, it will be actually a stronger stream of wind, which is going to for sure be a problem. Fine. So that really is, as far as we need to be concerned, in Seif Aleph. Maran writes later in Seif Bet, Asur liftoch haderech keneget hamadura, כשהיא קרובה קצת אל הדלת, ואפילו אין שם אלא רוח מצויה. This is not just for a candle, but even if you have a fireplace right next to the door or close enough to the door, and it's not a windy day necessarily, still to open the door in front of it directly would be questionable. But if the door is open in front of it, there's no problem of mechabed. Now, what's the problem over here? Because one of the processes of keeping a fire, lighting a fire, is blowing at it in order to provide oxygen. You need oxygen and fuel for the fire to burn. So when you blow at it, two things happens. A, you are providing more oxygen, and therefore the fuel could burn brightly and better. Secondly, when you blow at it, it blows off the ashes that are covering the new fuel from being exposed to the oxygen, and then your fire burns better. So we all know that you want the fire to catch on well, you fan it. So opening the door when you know the wind is going to blow in is fanning the fire. So therefore you cannot do that. But closing the door is stopping from fanning the fire. That's not considered turning it off. You just, not doing something positive. It's not equivalent of cutting the oxygen off. That would be mechabeh. If you cut the oxygen off, let's say you have a candle and you turn an upside down cup on top of it, so that chokes the fire. That is mechabeh. It's direct mechabeh. Here, there's no oxygen. The fire could be burned for hours and hours afterwards. So it's not considered, taking the wind off of it by closing the door. It's not considered a problem. Okay, so that we're going to stop here. We're out of time today. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll pick up Seif Gimel in the days to come. Hazak Baruch.